Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm going to be talking about our experience in setting up the Human Milk Bank and what really the Human Milk Bank has done to improve the quality of lives for these babies. Okay, so in terms of introduction, we all know that early nutrition is important for survival of the baby in the initial stay and thrive long term. And according to the recent guidelines for WHO, that is 2022, preterm babies who are less than 32 weeks or less than 1.5 should be fed as early as possible within the first day. However, most mothers are not able to have human milk in the first 48 hours because of inadequate lactation and lack of human milk bank. A few studies have been done. I think some have been done in Uganda, and I think I've also seen another study in Tanzania, where a 48-hour delay in initiating feeds is associated with poor postnatal growth. And there's a study which was done in Mulago Hospital where they reported when we delay feeding babies within the first 48 hours, then there's failure to regain a birth weight by 21 days. Sorry. Okay. So poor weight gain is strongly correlated with advanced neurodevelopmental outcome. If the baby doesn't gain weight early, then when you follow up these babies, many times their developmental outcomes are not very good, suggesting that enhancing and supporting maternal lactation and breast milk production post-delivery and early enteral feeding and establishment of human milk bank is key to improving outcomes for preterm babies. We all know that that breast milk provides optimal nutrition, and also its combination has a lot of things, enzymes, growth factors, and all these things cannot be duplicated. And situations where a mother's milk is not available, provision of pasteurized and screen donor milk is the next option, especially for ill and high-risk infants. So what is a human milk bank? So a human milk bank is a service that has been developed to basically recruit breast milk donors, collect donated milk, then process it, screen it, store it, and distribute it to meet the infant's specific needs for optimal health. And this is very important for anybody that wants to develop a human milk bank. The mission is basically to promote and protect and support breastfeeding by providing safe and high-quality donor milk to fill a gap for a mother who is not able to meet the need of breast milk, but also ensure quality, safety, and it always should be a functional part of the healthcare system, which should be integrated within the newborn care system. Basically, you recruit donors, you process the milk, and then you pasteurize it and give it to moms who have insufficient milk. The other thing is that it should not be independent. There has to be support for breastfeeding from antenatal. When a mother has delivered, support breastfeeding within the first 1 hour. You must have a breastfeeding policy, lactational support. When you have all that, you're going to have ensure enough breast milk, and the excess is what is going to fill up your bank, and then you give it to babies whose mothers may not have enough milk. So it's a multi-pronged approach is needed to ensure that all babies have human milk. So you cannot have a human milk bank when you don't have KMC, when you don't have lactation support. So all these things must be embedded together for you to have a functional human milk bank. As I said, it is just a bridge. In the first 48 hours, when the mother is not able to get enough milk, you support with the donor milk, but you continue supporting the mother lactation. By the time she leaves your ward, she should be having her own milk. So this is still emphasizing the same thing, that you basically have support breastfeeding, address breastfeeding challenges, and ensure that these mothers are encouraged to feed their own babies, have the excess, and then you have it in the human milk bank and give it to the vulnerable babies. So what is the process of human milk banking? So you have screening, and that is very important. So you screen the potential donors. You have to administer a questionnaire. That's a safety mechanism, because you have to know their history, are they taking alcohol, and then you also have to do their lab tests. And then once you have been able to screen them, you go on to process the milk. So one of the commonest methods we use for processing the milk is the holder method. It's called where you boil the milk to about 62 degrees for about 30 minutes, and then you allow it to cool. And after you have done the processing, then you're going to test it. You have to take a sample of that milk. You take it to the lab to make sure that there's no bacterial growth, and this is ensuring safety. So this is just still a process of human milk banking. The mothers express, store, and then they take the milk to the bank. First of all, you have to screen the donors. In the human milk bank, you have to follow strict guidelines and SOPs to safely process the milk. Once it has been processed, they're going to pasteurize it. And after pasteurization, a sample is taken to the lab for testing. And once the milk passes the test, then it's going to be stored in a deep freezer until it is needed for use. And you distribute it to vulnerable infants in the neonatal units. Not these mothers who say they don't want to breastfeed. So you must have a clear criteria which babies are going to get donor milk. If you don't, you're going to have issues in your ward. So briefly, the different methods of pasteurization, the holder pasteurization, where you heat the milk to 62.5 for about 30 minutes, the low temperature but longer time of pasteurization. And then there is the flash method, where you heat the milk to 72 degrees but for only 15 seconds. So there are differences. The one where you have the holder method, when they did some study, they noted that it kept the bactericidal action of the breast milk was preserved better compared to the one where you're using the higher temperature but for a shorter time. However, in reduction in the bacterial growth, it was better for the higher temperature, and yet you're heating it for a shorter time. This is just a map to show us the number of human milk banks in the world. As you can see, in America, there are quite many. In Europe, Asia, but in Uganda, I think we only have 4 countries that have human milk banks. So the presentation is to show that it's feasible to have a human milk bank, and we should not shy away from it. If you want to improve survival of babies, especially preterm babies, we can be able to have human milk banks. So I'm just going to briefly talk about our experience in setting up our human milk bank at our hospital. So I just summarized, we did a lot of work, there are about 10 steps that we undertook. So the first thing we had was assessment for the facility readiness to have the bank. So we identified our strengths and weaknesses. So we leveraged on our strength and worked on our weaknesses. Then we established a technical team and an advisory board, and we also engaged a human milk consultant who guided us on what to do, what equipment to buy, and then established quality control measures. We had to get SOPs actually adopted from Kenya, from Bumani, got the guidelines and the registers, set up a baby-friendly hospital initiative committee training, set up a communication strategy to improve communication in the wards, antenatal and everything. We made brochures, made videos, and then we also have an audit. We audit our bank once a year. So as the technical team, we actually currently sit every week to sort of review what is happening and also implement the different activities. So we came and visited Pumani and remodeled our neonatal unit remodeled it to have the bank within one neonatal unit. We never went abroad or where, but we came here and remodeled our bank. And after we had done everything, we had training, for the human milk banking, lactation, and how to use the SOPs register. One of the nurses from Pumani actually came and met our nurses who are now the lactational nurses that we have in the bank and also who work on the ward, and then a launch was done. So these are some of the weak strengths. We were expressing breast milk in the unit. There was already milk sharing. So we just leveraged already on that strength. But the weakness we never had any trained lactation staff. So this training helped us to establish lactational nurses, and even most of our nurses are very keen now in supporting mothers when they need the breast milk. And so this is when we had the launch, and that is when we opened up the bank. And so far we've had about 150 liters of human milk collected. We've been able to distribute it about to 230. 150 babies have benefited, but majority of them are preterm babies. So donor milk is any excess milk. Excess milk. The mother must have excess and that she has, and she can be able to donate. It is used as an alternative to formula, and it serves as a bridge to ensure that you have exclusive human diet, as the mother is provided with lactational support to build the milk supply for her own infant. And there are very many benefits. These are just summaries for donor milk compared to formula. When babies are fed on donor milk, they are less likely to have BPD, and actually a number of studies have also reported once you have human milk banking, because you train people in lactation, your breastfeeding rates actually go up. And there are also a number of studies which have shown that when you use donor milk, you have less episodes of sepsis amongst your babies. And also on ROP, when you use donor milk, you are going to reduce the incidence of ROP amongst your babies, and a systematic review was done. For any stage, it has been noted that when you use donor milk, you're going to reduce ROP. Similarly, also, you have reduced incidence of NEC when you use donor milk compared to formula milk. There are many other things. When you use donor milk, you have less hospital stay, less complications. There's cost service because you're not going to have NEC. And of course, because you're using breast milk, you're going to have better brain development. So in terms of comparison, still mother's milk is still the best. When you compare the factors in the donor milk versus the mother's own milk, still when you look at things like the lipids, they're going to reduce a bit in donor milk, though it is better than formula milk. When you look at things like lactoferrin, they're going to also lower a little bit with the pasteurization, and even the growth factors, such as your epidermal growth factor, which are very important to ensure growth of the intestines of the baby, is also going to reduce a little bit with pasteurization. The oligosaccharides actually are not affected, but certain hormones are also going to reduce. And also, when you have your milk microbiome is also going to be destroyed with the pasteurization. Still, mother's milk is always the best, even if you have donor milk.